There we go. Okay, now our
Oh
audio
yeah,
is
I
there,
was like, are
boys and
we starting?
girls. We're ready.
Testing.
Can you hear us, Rolando Sanchez?
Loud and clear.
All
Ten
right,
four.
perfect.
Good buddy.
And I can hear Papa loud and clear too.
Hey, so the first image, welcome, guys. It's been a long time. The reason why we didn't go live, by the way, is because my laptop was too slow. I know somebody had asked earlier, like, why didn't we go live? What happened to the last one? Are we doing the same images? And yes, we are, because it crashed and I needed a new laptop, and the laptop came in, so that fixed the issue.
And, there's a very specific reason why it crashed. He had a bunch of 4K videos on there of questionable content.
Allwebmdstuff.com. Yeah, right.
All right, Rolando
Research.
Sanchez, I'm going to take this thing off here. And the first photo is, guess who it's from, Mr. Rolando Sanchez?
Is it somebody local?
Huh?
Oh
Somebody
yeah,
local.
that's at Edinburgh City Hall.
Yes.
It's the most famous photographer from the Rio Grande Valley.
Besides me, Roland Sanchez. Sanchez underscore Roland,
Sanchez
actually.
underscore Roland.
It is Mr. Omar.
Omar!
So I'm
Looks
going to
like
let
Omar's work.
Mr. Jilpas start off with the image. Basically, guys, we're going to critique these images. We're doing this for fun. These were emailed to me. And so Marco's going to start it off. Roland, feel free to jump in. I'm going to try to fix some vMix social stuff real quick. But you guys go ahead and start it off.
He's over here slacking off. Sorry, guys. It would have been, everything would have been nice, smooth sailing if I was in control of the YouTube live, but just kidding. No, so yeah, we actually had gone live, and our goal was to kind of critique these images that we're going to be doing today. But the very last time that we actually went live, we had some, two things. We had some technical difficulties, and then, of course, we had some issues on the side of YouTube.
Oh, yeah.
We got like some kind of copyright notification, and we were like freaking out, like, we had permission to use these images to critique them. So it was a little crazy that situation, turned out the way that it did. But all that being said, we're happy to be back and kind of, trying to do as many, what's it called? As many, whether it's a live critique, whether it's a Q&A. So we're going to try to take advantage of that to the best of our ability. So you're getting some double voice on your mic?
It's my microphone.
Okay. All right. So first image is from actually a local photographer, Omar Marukin. He is from the same area as we are, and he submitted this image for us to take a look at. And like Eli was mentioning at the very beginning, these are photos that are submitted to us, to use for the purposes of the YouTube live. So that's what we're using it for. We're not going to go and post them anywhere. And of course, we don't claim to be experts in any way, just in case, that comes up at some point. But anyways, this is a fantastic image, and I know that I had already talked about it the last time, but there's a couple of things that I want to talk about, first and foremost. I think Omar had tuned in to the last actual critique, and I believe he mentioned this was a client shoot. And I think he also said that the photo was taken at about 9 o'clock. Yes. So really late in the evening, low light, very little ambient. So I can tell that, looking at the image, that he did do a 2-light setup. And I think the reason that he had done that was because of how dark it was outside. So keeping that in mind, I think he did a fantastic job of adding that second light source. The one thing that I generally sometimes have issues with, can you hear me? You can still hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Hello, testing. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So one of the things that I like about this photo is that it is in fact a 2-light setup. But one thing that I always try to watch out for is the placement of the second light. So if you look at the image, you can tell that it's definitely camera right. It's behind her. But I think it's a little bit maybe positioned in a way where you're having some spill still like on the cheek. So the way I like to think about it is when you're doing a 2-light setup, you're gonna have your key light, and then the second light you're kind of using it primarily so you can have that subject environment separation between the two, and that's gonna really help, especially in low light conditions. So for here, I think Omar did a fantastic job of using 2 lights and because of the time that he was shooting. The one thing that I did mention the last time, which I don't know if this would have been possible, but I would have liked, because of the color of the dress, and you got some cool like lampposts in the background. I would have liked to see some experimentation with some gels. Maybe putting like a speed light inside of a like a Ziploc bag or something like that, so it doesn't get destroyed. But kind of having like that additional little pop from the water fountain that's directly behind her. So you can just add a little bit of more color, a little bit more interest to the environment. Because again, Omar was working in low light conditions, so I think he did great for the conditions that he was working in. So I mean, I love the colors. I think the lighting is fantastic. Two light setup. Only other thing that I'm going to mention before I let Eli or Roland, whoever wants to go next, is the pose. Like I said, I think Omar had mentioned that this was a client shoot. I love the fact that she's holding kind of like a glass with her. She's got the legs crossed. She's adding a little bit more of like kind of like that S shape to her form, and then of course she's got her left hand, behind her back. So one of the things that I like to focus on when I am posing a model is always trying to give the model's hands something to do. So I like that he incorporated that as part of the shoot. So her right hand is holding the cup, and the other hand is, of course, still being posed as well. So all of those elements together, I think it's a great image. I really do. I like it.
Yeah. Omar has come a long ways. Omar, you're doing a great job, buddy.
Omar
You're getting
Marroquin.
there. And Omar was the only Sony shooter when we first met him. We were all shooting Canon. Me and Eli and Francisco were shooting Canon. Marco was shooting Nikon,
Puro Nikon
and
vato.
he was the only one shooting A6500, I think. And we were like, "Hey, who's this guy?" But we got to be good friends and taught him some things, and he's learned from us, and it's been great. So Omar, keep up the great work, buddy. Also, what I want to talk about on this photo, what I would suggest is just the actual pose. I would actually move her more towards her right, kind of just a little bit sideways, so that light that's hitting her cheek, it'll actually hit her in the back. So that's the only thing that I'd suggest with this photo. I mean, you've got the great idea of using two light setup because of how dark it is. You wanted to separate her from everything that's going on in the back. But personally, I would just position her a little bit more towards that left hip, more towards the camera, so that light won't hit
Yes.
her in that face.
I like that
Also,
suggestion, Roland,
yeah,
because not only that, but it would also slim her down and it would show more of her shape as well, like in the
yeah,
hips.
because especially with women, the hips, you want to flatter her. You want to you want to use a pose that's going to flatter her and not go against her. But
Exactly.
other than that, this is a great shot.
Hmm. Yeah, that was a great suggestion, Roland. And I like how Marco brought up the point about using a prop, like with the hand, giving the hand something to do. And that's something that me and Marco like to do a lot. And so if this was a client photo, which I think it was, I would be happy. If I was a client, I think that it's a great photo. The smile is on point. The red really pops. And I think we discussed this last time when we tried to do the live last time was we wanted like a backlight, just to like light up something back there, just so it doesn't seem so dark. But it's easier said than done because maybe Omar didn't have an assistant. I mean, we're lucky that we always get to shoot with two people, and sometimes some people don't have that luxury. So
Yeah,
yeah,
that's also
True.
very true. Kind of just going back on what I was saying, I know that if you are doing a client shoot, sometimes you're going to be doing that on your own, so you have those limitations of, hey, I've got to worry about the key light, but also a backlight because I'm shooting in very dark conditions, so the ambient's going to be one of my main or one of the main focus during the shoot, and making sure that you get an image that is overall, you've got some really good lighting, of course, again, based on the conditions that you're
Hmm.
shooting in. And you're right, even though we're talking about gels or maybe having an additional light somewhere back there to kind of just add a little bit more ambient, maybe Omar just didn't have, someone else assisting him, which, of
Yeah, or
course,
the
that would have
gels.
prevented him
Yeah.
from being able to do that. But assuming he had an assistant, then that's definitely something that you can experiment with. I love working with gels when the conditions permit, especially like once you're in, once the sun set, you're going to be trying to figure out ways to bring in more color. And of course, once there's no more ambient, your settings are pretty much going to be pretty consistent. And it's just a matter of shaping the light. Whether you're going something for like what Omar did, maybe something a little bit moodier, or introducing maybe some speed lights to add a little bit more color to the overall
Yeah.
image. But all those things aside, I think he did a fantastic job with the image. I
Uh,
really like it.
Oh,
yeah.
and it's his
I
birthday
like
too.
it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Happy
happy birthday,
birthday,
brother!
Omar! I don't know if
Hey,
you're
also
here.
on also on this image, I mean, I know it's a client shoot, so you got to keep the process going, the flow going, because you're on paid time, and of course it's more nerve wracking doing a client shoot than doing what we do TFP shoots. When we do TFP shoots, we tend to be more creative, and
Mm-hmm.
it's more fun, and we get to bounce ideas off of each other. And I know through a client shoot, because I had one yesterday, and you're just like, you're not thinking of, oh, I got to use a gel here or this and that. Uh, it's hard, but here, I mean, just a half CTO on the camera right, and maybe a orange gel hitting the fountain in the back or the wall would have been just made it more boom to the photo, what I call it.
Mm-hmm.
So,
For sure.
right, Eli? What do you
Yes,
think?
sir. I agree. Rolando Sanchez. Good points, Mr. Rolando Sanchez.
Sanchez underscore Roland.
Sanchez underscore
Follow him on
Roland
Instagram.
Instagram.
Hey, Roland, I like how you have your name in the background right there.
Oh yeah, man, my sign back there. Is that I don't want to see? I want you guys to see my kitchen, so I'll put that sign back there.
Okay.
Oh, I love this. Who did this one? Omar?
No, no, no.
Okay, is
Mario,
that
take this
Omar's
one.
name?
Yeah, so this was a photo, and I think we had talked about this on the last live. It was one of the photos that we actually had a chance to get to before we started having some issues with the stream, and then of course on YouTube's end. But this is actually a photo that was submitted by our friend Addy. I think he lives in New York or New Jersey, around that area. But if you take a look at the photo, or if you follow Addy on Facebook, he is a primarily natural light shooter, and he does love those close-ups. So that's technically what his style is. So if and I think his full Instagram is photos by Addy. So if you really like his work, go check him out and give him a follow. But this is one of those photos that immediately jumps out at you when you see it for the first time. And I think there's a couple of reasons for that. One of the things that I'm always looking for that catches my attention when I'm either going through my feed or looking at other photographers' work is one, the expression that the model's giving, two, the colors, and of course four, like the colors, the pose, the composition, all those things I think play a very pivotal role in the overall feel of an image. And the reason that I like this image so much is because I've actually talked about this. One of my weak points as a photographer is the close-ups. I've never been good at it. I do feel like, and it's funny because I think Eli and I were having this conversation the last time. So when I think of a close-up, it's like I'm doing a close-up, but it turns out to be like a three-quarter shot, and it's like that's my version of a close-up. But when a close-up is, this is like right here what Addy has submitted. To me, that's a real close-up, and where you can see all the details. It's just like the model's face and body, or the model's face and the arms or hands are going to be a majority of the frame. So that's technically
Addy's
what.
in the house.
Addy, what's up, broskies? So we just started talking about your photo, man. So thank you for joining in. So now that I've kind of talked about, generally speaking, what a close up can be. So this particular photo that Addy submitted for us, there's a lot of things that I like about it. And the very first thing that stood out to me is that, well, one is the close up, but number two, that you can also see her hands. So another thing when you're doing with close-ups, sometimes it's very hard to try to figure out what to do with the hands if you're gonna do such a tight crop, whether it's in your camera or if you know how you're gonna crop it at the end of the day. But this image is so powerful because her expression, the color of her eyes, the fact that the way he cropped it, like, even though, maybe part of the hand is, I think it would technically be in the right hand, it's actually cut off in the crop. That doesn't bother me at all. I actually think it adds rather than subtracts from the overall, emotion that you get by looking at this image. The colors are so fantastic. You see like the greens and the reds, the complementary color scheme that you have in this image. And the other thing that I really, 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 really like is just like the shadow work. Like, I think Addy did such a fantastic job of, the way that he posed the hands. And I know, yes, there's, the whole discussion about, hey, what does the camera look like as raw and what was actually done in post, whether, there was some dodging and burning done, whatever retouching is involved. But at the end of the day, yes, you can retouch a photo, but you can't change the pose. You can't change the expression. You have to nail
Right.
that. And I think that is what makes this photo such a great photo. And I love her nose piercing.
Yes,
like
it's a nice little it's a nice little detail. And one of the things that I respect about Addy is that he is a master at close-ups. If you guys go to his work, I don't know if you remember his Instagram, but he has a lot of great close-ups, and he's great at retouching as well.
Very good.
Because the close-ups, you got to bring your A game when you're gonna edit close-ups because all the
Yeah,
details are there.
exactly.
So you really got to make that really shine and stand out. Roland,
Yeah.
this is
What?
a lot different than your style. So the Addy does natural light, and this is a
Yeah.
close-up. What is your feedback looking at this image, man? What do you think?
Well, I mean, I love the expression. Just like Marco had said, the use of hands is great. Addie, the shadows are great on there. I see around the nose, maybe on one side, just a little bit more dodging on that one, on that side, probably on her right eye, towards the nose a little bit at the bottom.
Yeah.
Also, I can see you're using a solid color in post it in Photoshop where you're using a gradient. Possibly just see right there in her forehead. It's just like an overspray. So
Oh, I see.
Okay.
I've
Yeah.
learned
That's a
how
good
to
point, Roland.
I've learned how to use these just recently. Learned to get great doing gradients like this. So the only thing I would suggest is bring the opacity down a little bit more, or just
I'm not paying
bring the
attention.
brush down to about maybe 20 to 30% and just brush that off. Where it's real lightly. But other than that, this is a great photo. I like it. I like, natural light is one of my weaknesses right now, and it's something that I certainly want to improve in to make my, photos look like this. Great job on that.
Right. So there's a question, guys, here. So let's see if we can answer this question. It's asking, is there a way to fix ambient light on post? So I think he was referring to the last photo with Omar, and this is like in general. If there's a possible way, I mean, of course you can bring up the shadows. I mean, I know one of the ways I do it is I'll either use a radial filter in Capture One. You can do this in Lightroom, or you can use that little gradient to bring back some. But you have to keep in mind, depending how dark you make that background, it might affect how authentic it looks. It might start to look fake. So that's like a little bit questionable. Marco, do you have any tips for that? Like, how would you fix that? What would be your approach?
So the way that I understand the question is, if you go back to Omar's photo, which was a full body shot, taken at approximately 9 p.m. let's say. So very dark outside, little to no ambience. And the way I understand the question is there a way to make it maybe brighter, or so you can see more of the environment? So there's a combination of things that you can consider. I think the most important thing, though, is if you're shooting in low light conditions, you have to know your camera. You have to know what you can recover in post. You have to really understand the dynamic range of that camera. So once you bring that raw image into whatever program that you're using for raw processing, you're already going to know what you can bring back. So in Omar's image, for example, he was using two lights. I don't know how much, editing he did for the ambient in the background. But what I usually do is if I use off-camera flash and I have a dark ambient, usually I will try to correct that or make it look as pleasing as possible by, using the layering system in Capture One, raising the shadows and the blacks. and then maybe masking that and maybe just focusing on the ambience. But one of the, I think, like most important things to remember is sometimes you can't salvage an image that way, and sometimes you're going to get to the point where it starts getting borderline fake, and then you're going to have that issue of what am I going to do with the ambient once I bring it into Photoshop. That's why I say that it's very important to know the limitations of your camera and what you can and cannot recover in post. Because if you have a very dark ambient and your camera's not very good at recovering shadows, then you're gonna run into some issues when you're in post processing. But for the most part, if you have enough ambient, then you're gonna be able to recover something. And then whether you're working in Lightroom or Capture One, you're gonna be able to make some adjustments to bring some of that light back.
Santiago,
You can also.
it was a
Oh,
natural
sorry.
light photograph by Addy.
Yeah. Also, to bring, I've experienced this myself with the ambient being real low and stuff, but I have had some success by taking it over to Camera Raw and then bringing up the shadows and increasing the whites a little bit
Mhm.
and maybe some clarity, and that will sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes it'll solve the issue where it's acceptable. It doesn't bring in a lot of noise or anything like that. It's just it's something that I can work with.
All right, so this is our third image. Rolando Sanchez, do you want to start off with this image? You'll start, and then we'll go around. What do you think, Rolando Sanchez? I'm going to
Let's
take
see.
off
This
the
looks,
comment so you can see the photo.
yeah, so I can see the whole body. It looks like it was done in the studio, right? No, it's somebody. Well, shoot, I can't tell, but looks like it's. Let's
Looks like
see.
I think it's a natural light photo.
it looks like
Looks
natural
like
light, but there's
natural.
like some ambient with the
Or
light
maybe
from the
something.
ceiling.
It could be whether that could just
A
be
ceiling
something.
fan or
Where she's
something,
positioned, there might be like a lamp or something on top of her.
or
But
maybe
yeah, it looks
lights
like it's
coming in
outside.
from
She's like
blinds
hands on a
or
railing,
something.
but you know,
Yeah, there's a
you might be
railing or
completely wrong.
something.
Yeah.
Uh, the only, I mean, to me, composition, the way that she's positioned in there, I would put in post, I would move her more towards the middle of the frame and just, uh, just show her more in the middle. But I'm looking at the lighting. Um, I don't know. I'm stuck on this one. What do you guys think?
So one of the things I like your suggestion about putting her in the middle. One of the things that
Yeah.
stood out to me was the hands, Roland. They're so close to the
Hmm.
camera that they appear a
Yeah,
little big. I like the
that
use of the
too.
pose, like leaning up against the pole. I think that's good. I think he wanted the leading lines, and I think it was just a matter of just putting the hands across like this, one another, not the hand coming towards the camera like
Yeah,
this, because then it's gonna
yeah,
appear bigger, and that would have
yeah.
fixed the whole
The,
problem. You got the nice shape with the back. I like the expression. She did that nice little head
The
tilt.
little tilt.
And I don't know if you
yeah.
noticed this, Roland, but he kind of did your style here. Tilted the head and the hair's coming
Oh,
down.
yeah.
That's something that you do
Hmm.
very often.
That's the Rolando Sanchez pose right there.
Yeah, also when I first looked at this photo when it first flashed up, the first thing that I saw was a tattoo.
The tattoo.
Nothing against tattoos or anything like that, but it took more of the attention off of her face.
True.
So maybe the face thinner the other way, exposing that shoulder, her right shoulder versus the left. I don't know. It's just a subjective thing. So,
Mhm.
but you might. I would personally shoot it to where she's facing her shoulder, her left shoulder the other way. You know what I mean?
Would you
But yeah, that
suggest,
front.
Roland, that maybe it's a wardrobe issue then?
Could be.
Yeah, yep,
It's
could
a
be
fix it with the wardrobe?
with the wardrobe or the hair. Just cover it with the hair
Yeah,
for
I
now.
agree. Uh-huh.
Mhm.
Yeah.
What about you, Marco?
No,
Your turn, man.
those are all valid points, and I think what Roland said really really kind of ties everything together. You got to remember that photography is very subjective, and there really is no wrong way to do it. I think the photos that each photographer takes is kind of like a representation of their personality, especially of like how they a bit about with the tattoo. So what I would be kind of curious to know if this was either a client shoot or maybe kind of like a collaborative effort between the model and the photographer, like a TFP. Because maybe if this was a client shoot, maybe she wanted to show off her tattoo. Maybe
Right.
it's an expression, it's a part of who she is, an extension of her personality. So that might have been something that she wanted to do. And Roland, you do a lot of client work. I'm sure you get clients asking you to do some things that kind of go against. You're like, hey, I want to do it this way, but you're like, no, it's gonna look better this
Yeah,
way.
and
And there's
if
a
they want
difference in
it,
opinion. So
yeah, no, and
yeah.
if a client
Hannah's in the house. What's
was
up,
like,
Hannah?
So
and if a client has a tattoo and she's like, hey, I want my tattoo to show, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm gonna make it look, I'm gonna to where it's gonna flatter her.
yeah, So
Whether using the prop or the hair or whatever, and it's just I'm gonna use it. Uh, I'm gonna do what they're wanting me to do. You know what I mean?
correct. So and that's kind of like
So
what I was talking about. So like if this is a situation where it's a client shoot and the client wanted to display her tattoo because, like I said, it's an extension of her, then
mhm.
by all means, it's great. But I do agree with Roland of like, when I looked at the photo, one of the things that my eyes caught almost immediately was the tattoo. It stands out. It's great. I love tattoo. It's a beautiful form of art. Um, and it kind of like, I don't know if it's my eyes, but does it look a little bit purple or is it like?
Oh, Naya. It's Naya.
Did you call her Hannah?
Yes, I did. Because it says.
Naya.
Is this
I would not
Hanaya?
let that one go. We called
Oh,
you Hannah. Hannah in the house. And you said it with so
Hanaya.
much passion.
I know.
Okay, so all things aside, I think the tattoo thing, it's a subjective thing, and like I said, maybe it was a client shoot, maybe this is what she wanted to do, which is cool. Now the other thing that I think Roland and Eli had mentioned was the hands. So I don't really know what lens the photographer was using.
Yes.
Looking at it, it was probably like
1.8.
it looks kind of like I see like it might have been like a 50, maybe a 35. So when you're using hands and you are placing them on an object or whatever composition that you're focusing on and you want to use the hands and that object as leading lines, what I generally do is keep in mind what my crop is going to look like when I am posting on social media, whether it's Facebook or Instagram. So if in this case you can see that, and Eli just he hit the nail right on the head. The hands, they look bigger than what the model's hands probably are.
Right.
They're not in focus. So what I would have done if I was trying to work this composition is I would have probably shot wider so that I had her hand in focus, probably shot at an aperture of f2.8 at a minimum,
Mhm.
so I can increase the amount of her body that's in focus. And then, like if I was using a high megapixel camera or even the A7 III, I would be able to crop it, knowing that one, I have the whatever her hands are placed on, I have the leading lines, and her hands are in focus. So that's something that I probably would have done. But again, it's a judgment call, and maybe it was a client shoot, and maybe he or she was working under time constraints. So it's always important to keep those things in mind, especially when you're giving feedback on the photo. But aside from that, I love the pose. I love the expression. She's kind of have like her eyes are like literally looking right at you. I love the little head tilt. That is a very Rolando Sanchez kind of Roland. If you follow Roland on Facebook, you'll notice that he likes to pose in that way, which is great. And I like that. Like I think we were having that discussion about whether it's natural light or off-camera flash. I do believe it's natural light, but I like that little light come in from the top.
Yes.
I don't know
For sure, man.
if
I like that too.
I don't know if that is like a speed light or if it's just maybe wherever they were shooting that light just fell on her hair. But I feel like that really adds that separation.
Yes, that's a good point, man.
So it looks great. I think photographer did a
Eli,
great job.
are you able to zoom into the ice? The photo?
That's
No?
a great question. I can't. Well, I'll check in my iPad in a little bit, but
It's okay, dude.
yeah. All right, boys, you ready for the next one?
Ready as can be.
All right, image
Did we talk about this one? This was the last
This
one
is this is the last one that we talked about last time, and then we got kicked out. So, here's the first. Oh, this is definitely off-camera flash. You can see it from the catch lights like right away. This is definitely off-camera flash. So far, from what I see, I love the use of light. The sculpting of the light is awesome. We got that nice cheekbone that has a little bit of shadow, which I like. The lips are nice and bright. They have nice light on them. The hair looks good. The one thing that does stand out to me is that I feel like she's a little bit too much on the right side on the frame, and I would have loved to see like pulled back just a little bit more to see more detail as to what she's wearing, because I think the outfit, there's a lot of potential there, and I can barely just see enough of it, and I'm kind of like bummed. I'm like, damn, maybe if he just pulled back just a little bit to get more of that, that would have really sealed it up really well. Good use of bokeh. So this lens, you could tell it's either the 85 prime or it's the 135 or 105. But this is like a bokeh lover photo right here. Great job with the post processing as well. I don't see any issues in the face. I think they did it. Super clean. The eyes are not overly processed at all. Sometimes eyes can be easily over processed.
I do that all the time.
But other than that, I mean, that's my feedback. I don't know what you guys think. What do you think, Rolando Sanchez?
I was just looking at the use of the rule of thirds, because I mean it's just like
Ben
she's
is in the house.
she's falling off the frame. You know what I mean? She's falling off the frame. So yeah, just the use of rule of thirds on this one. So it's the only thing I'm concerned about. Other than that, I mean, it's a nice shot. Good balance of ambient and OCF, and post processing looks great.
Yeah, so we have a comment here from a Mr. Hector Javier Gonzalez. I heard this guy. He's
from Big D.
He's from Big D, Texas.
Dallas.
A little D's.
He's. So I agree with the question, and it's very possible that the photographer, we didn't have a specification as to whether it was like Sony or Canon or anything like that, right? So I think there's always the possibility that maybe the photo was cropped in this way, and maybe it was an artistic decision, which is that's why I say, like, photography, it's so subjective, and there really isn't a wrong way to do it. And I think Roland had mentioned, the rule of thirds. I probably would have, whether it was a crop, whether it was an intentional framing in camera, I would have left a little bit more environment to the right side of the frame, and of course the left side of her body. That way you can have more of the environment. You can see more of her outfit. But aside from the crop, or whether it was an artistic decision or otherwise, it's a fantastic photo. I love the colors, and I agree. This is probably an 85, 135 type of shot. The lighting is so clean. The catch lights are perfect, and that's one of the things that Eli and I are always looking for.
Yes, absolutely.
Or any photographer that does off-camera flash. It's one of the things that we're always looking for when we're using off-camera flash, to make sure that we get the catch lights, because that adds, it makes the eyes look more lively, as opposed to having like some type of vacant expression when they're missing. So the retouch is super clean. I think David did a fantastic job combining all those elements. Her expression is really, really great. And like I said, it's just an overall great image. All those things combined make it a really, really great image.
One of the things on David, one of the things on the expression on this, I would just, one suggestion, I would have her just breathe through her mouth instead of breathing through her nose, because you can see the lips are a little bit stiff. But when model, you instruct her just to breathe through her mouth, it'll separate the lips a little bit, and it'll make her look a little bit more relaxed. So just a suggestion.
See, Roland with the tips.
Those are
experience.
Like money. You guys, I hope you guys are like taking notes from Rolando Sanchez.
Yeah, and just tell her to give you that fierce look.
Fierce.
Give me fierce.
If you ever shoot with Roland, you'll hear him say that. Give me fierce.
Yeah.
Give me fierce and breathe through your mouth and give me fierce. That's what
there you go.
I have
Breathe through your mouth and give me
Not a shirt,
And,
not
and
a shirt
also
that
like
I wear.
another cue, like if they're like, "What do you mean breathe through my mouth?" I am breathing. The other thing that I like to say, and I think Eli says this too, is just asking the model to separate their lips just a little bit, so you can have that, that emotion. So
Uh-huh. All right, boys, you ready for the image number 5? We got 10 images. We're at 5
Whoa.
out of 10 now.
is the photo we didn't
Let's
get?
see. Let's see. Hit it.
Yeah, so this is officially now the first time we see this image, because the last time we went live, which was almost a month ago,
About a month ago.
this is when it crashed and it just went down.
We were like, "Oh, damn."
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So
Naya sent me a message. She was like, "What the hell are you doing, you idiots?"
you mean Hannah?
Oh, Hannah. Hannah sent me a message. Just kidding.
All right. Let's go.
All right. Here we go. Roland, we're going to let you go first on this one.
Papa, what do you think, Papa?
Dramatic. I like it. Gels. Good use of gels. I don't know if you used a smoke or maybe an overlay, but this looks awesome. One suggestion would be just on the light, position it more, a little bit higher, because I can see it's hitting her more on the forearm. So just a little bit higher, it would illuminate the other eye too. But good use of gels on this.
Yeah.
I like it.
What I'm trying to figure out is this gels with speed lights, or is this with LED lights? That's what I would love to know. But
Continuous or
the
flat?
thing- I'm sorry?
Continuous, or is it a continuous light, or is it a strobe?
A strobe.
I mean,
Yeah, it could be a strobe.
Yeah.
But the thing that stands out to me is the colors, just like what Naya just said. The colors are just what really pops. And what I'm also wondering is with the glasses, is that something that was wardrobe choice, or are those her natural glasses? Because I know Brandon Wolfel will make the models wear glasses, because I think the glasses add something to the photo, in my opinion.
Yeah, and if he would have brought I don't know exactly where the light was positioned, but that right knee needs to go in the bottom corner. Let's see. Eli, let me see. Can you take that off so I can see the knee?
Yes, I'm about to take it off. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Let's see.
Sorry,
Thank you, sir. The knee. What?
No, it's
Oh, okay. Yes, yes. I see what Ben was talking about. Yes.
Okay.
You know what? I don't know if that's a knee, or maybe it's like the seat.
Maybe it's
because I'm assuming this is in a car, right? Or am I dumb here?
No, it
Yeah.
looks like
This looks like a car, right?
looks like a car.
Looks like it's in a car, yeah, and foggy
It
or
could be the
smoky
wheel,
or
it could be part of the seat. I really don't know.
yeah.
Yeah, but the colors, that's when I saw the image for the first time, that was of course one of the things that stood out to me. And I think that actually be really a really good question or answer to have is, whether it was actually gels attached to maybe like a speed light that were used inside the vehicle.
Yeah, I can
Or
see there was
maybe it
one used in the back seat, and maybe
or
one
maybe
shot
like,
through the window.
yeah, maybe LED lights. I kind of get like that projector kind of feel to it. Like there's like a projector on her.
Right. Yeah.
Like
Hey,
kind of giving it like
I've
those
got a
really
fan.
cinematic. Like, see when
Hi, Dave.
I see this picture, I'm seeing like a narrative story. So I'm seeing like maybe this model, she's hanging out like at a drive-in theater, and she's getting that cool color cast on her from whatever's in front of her. So I know that was a creative choice by the photographer. But looking at the image as a whole. I like that, so much color was incorporated, especially, if this was taken in the car, which I believe it was, you're working in a very tight spot. So you're limited to what you can do. You can't bring in a 600 or like a 400 Pro with a 48-inch softbox and put it in the car.
With a
That's
5
probably
foot.
something we would try. We
Yes.
probably would try it.
The early
Like we
days.
want that soft light.
Yes.
But at the end of the day, it probably would not work. So my guess is that either there was strobes outside of the vehicle, maybe coming in through the window. It was either an LED light or kind of speed light with the gel attached to it. But that's the colors. In terms of expression and kind of like the pose as a whole. I'm trying to see if maybe I can see it a little bit better. So she's got her, I guess that would be her left hand. So a lot of times when I'm posing a model, I try my best, and sometimes I miss it, and sometimes I'll get an image that I really, really like, and the hand is maybe covering too much of the face, or it's covering the mouth. So those are just, kind of things to watch out for. I probably would have looked. Actually, you know what? Let me change that. I'd be kind of curious to see if there are alternate versions of the photo where you were working with the model. You got different variations, and I would be kind of curious to see if you got any shots where there isn't that knee or that seat at the bottom that Ben was talking about, or maybe something with the hand a little bit different, posed a little bit differently. I'm not saying that what you did is incorrect. I would just be kind of curious to see if there was other variations of this photo. But I love that she's not looking directly into the camera. She's just kind of looking away. That's why I kind of see like she's like at a drive-in theater. She's looking at a movie or something, and that color's coming on her.
You know what? I like that you brought that up, that she's looking away. I think that really sold this pose. And I like the use of the hand. I don't think anybody talked about the hand. The hand, in my opinion, it's real soft. And posing the hands near the mouth is like super difficult, really difficult. What do you guys think of the hands? Is it distracting? Is it fine? I think it looks okay, in my opinion. I think it works. Because I'm not an expert with hands. Hands are like freaking difficult to work with. What do you think, Rolando Sanchez?
Yeah, no, the good use of hands right there, actually, just thinking, she's thinking, what, maybe they're at the drive-in, well, what movie are you going to watch or whatever, I don't know, man.
Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah.
Eli, it looks like I got a shout out right there earlier. It
Yes,
flashed
let me
up on
put
the
that
screen.
back up. Rolando Sanchez. Rolando with the shout out.
Roland's like, put that shout out back up. Put that shout out
Put
back
that shout out
up
back there.
There it is, Rolando Sanchez.
Dava Claire, hi Dava. Dava is one of my little supermodels. Always enjoy shooting with her. Great job on her photos. She's very photogenic. So looking forward to doing a shoot with her
Yes.
pretty soon. Let's see what Ben's coming.
I like this. I absolutely love this comment by Ben. He says, I think some kind of rim light could bring her head out more and focus on her.
I agree.
That is 100%. I agree with that 100%. So again, like you're working in low light conditions, and if you're going to be shooting in a dark environment, whether it's a studio, whether it's an alternative controlled setting, or whether it's outside, you always have to keep in mind, how am I going to have, subject environment separation, or how can I increase that to make sure that the model is the primary focus of the image and she doesn't get lost in the dark ambient. Or maybe that's just the mood that the photographer was going for. I don't know. But I like Ben's suggestion, and I would have liked to see maybe a couple of variations, maybe having a light coming from, the left side of the frame, maybe another gel, maybe like a complementary color. I mean, I know we already have a lot of colors in there, so maybe it's just kind of like a rainbow and just kind of like mix it up. And but that would have been really cool to see, and I think that what Ben said, that would have brought her face more separated from the background, and it would have been really, really cool to see.
Sure. Is it just me, or is it just me, or is there like a ghost or something looking through the window? Can you see that?
Oh yes, yes. I see it here.
Like a
or if somebody's reflection.
Yeah.
So what maybe like smoke coming from?
Yeah.
All right, Samuel. Thank you so much for the image. We love this image. It's a beautiful image.
Man. It's great.
All right, we're on to image 6 out of 10.
OCF.
Roland, I'm going to let you start off this one, as I'm going to get the person's name on the screen. This is by Ricardo.
There's no way to get it close, right? Oh, that's something. Put my shout out back up. I know it's hard shooting in tight places like this because you've got to get creative with the lighting to actually hit her in the face. That I can see there's looks like the light bounced off that wing. Underneath that wing, there's just a little bit of a spot right there, but I don't know if it was done in post to bring the light back up in her face, but looks like the use of hard light. or the light actually pulled back because there's a hard shadow on her shirt
So
from her
I
hand.
think the light is coming camera right, Roland, because the shadow.
Am I right? Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I see. So, like the colors, I don't see anything else that he could have used to improve. Maybe, no, I was gonna say a light to backlight her a little bit, but I know that's such a tight space right there. I don't know how he could have done that, but yeah, I like the colors, man. The shoes look cool.
You're cool, Rolando Sanchez.
Oh man, you guys are
Yeah,
cool.
I would say I like the concept of the photo. I
Yeah.
think the part that makes it difficult is kind of placing her in that area because her body seems really constrained, especially her legs,
Contorted,
because she
yeah.
has to kind of like squeeze in there. So I think that this is not an easy pose or something easy to work with. I'll tell you this much. And then not only that, but the lighting, because of the shadows of all the poles and things from the airplane, that it's going to cause all these shadows and stuff like that. I do like the wardrobe. I do like the concept of the overall shoot. I would just say that maybe not have the leg up so high because I feel like it's not as maybe flattering, I guess you could say. What do you guys think? What do you think, Marco, about the leg being up?
Yeah, so I was just kind of curious. I wanted to see. I know Roland had mentioned that it was like it's hard lighting, and we generally don't, use a whole lot of hard lighting, and at least in our images, because we have kind of like a similar taste in having that super duper awesome soft light. So I zoomed in to the eyes, and I just wanted to kind of confirm if it was one or two lights. So it is two lights. So it looks like what the photographer did was have a light coming from both sides, kind of like I don't know what that kind of setup is, but the model's in the middle and you have a light on the right side of
Cross
her
light.
and the left side of her.
Cross lighting.
So yeah, so it's a two light setup and both are aimed directly at her. And I would imagine that he probably did that because he was maybe tried just having one light and it was too dark. So to balance out the lighting on her face, or maybe reduce the amount of shadows, maybe he wasn't really feeling the shadows. Maybe he ended up adding that second light source. And it looks like they just looking at the catch lights, it looks like the modifiers were about the same size. So now I agree with Eli. I love the idea behind this image. I love the colors. I love the wardrobe. What I find a little distracting is I feel like she's just kind of shoved into the airplane. And it's kind of like I feel like she's not comfortable. And when you have a model and you place her in an environment or in a situation, or maybe it's a pose that you're thinking up here, and it's a good idea to kind of build upon. Like, I'm going to place her here. I'm going to use that as a base, and I'm going to kind of make some modifications to that pose. But I feel like she's just kind of like tossed in there. Like I said, I just don't feel like, or maybe she found a way to make herself comfortable, and maybe that's why her knee is so high, in relation to the rest of her body. But the other thing that I kind of, I see like that I don't know, it's a part of the airplane. Like it just kind of comes out from the middle, the top middle, the middle of the frame, and it kind of just goes into her, and then it cuts the leg off.
I didn't even see that.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
the
so
support,
it
the
looks
thing
like,
for the wing. Yeah.
like I said, I love the idea behind it, but I feel like I think maybe something like this would have been a good starting point, and then make some changes, or maybe even have her legs come over that part where it's kind of separating both of her legs, and maybe try something like that. And if it's
What
still
I would
not
like,
working, then you
what
can
I would have liked
continue
to
to
see.
try to build on that
Sorry.
pose. But like for me, like I said, I do love the colors. The lighting's great. I see the idea. I think you were kind of going for something like like a storytelling element of the photo. But again, I just feel like she's just kind of tossed in there, and that's
Yeah,
not to
what
say
I'd like.
that's a bad thing, but it just I feel like this would have been a good starting point, and to kind of experiment and try to make some changes to that pose to see what works best, or at least have a variety that you can kind of
Yes,
work with.
that's what I was going to say. I'm curious to see what other photographs he got in this photo shoot. You were going to say something, Roland? What were you going to say, man?
Yeah, what I would have liked to see is, just maybe have him not so tight of a crop, but pulled back a little bit so I can tell whether it's a plane or a helicopter or something. I know you're trying to tell a story or whatever, she just hanging out or what, but I know that's a big tire in the bottom, but and those are the support, those pipes going across are the support of the wing, but
Mhm.
who knows? Maybe it's something else, not a helicopter or an airplane, but it could be something else. But I would like to see,
Could be.
uh, yeah, it's visually confusing a little bit. But yeah, I would have liked to see what's going on with the
Yes,
environment.
I agree with Roland Sanchez. If Roland did this photo, he would have had her like in a long dress. Roland would have did like a wide
It would
shot.
Oh
have
yeah,
been a wide shot. Yeah,
yeah.
I
I
can
would have
see I
been,
can see
I would have been on my stomach
I
on
can
this
see
shot.
Roland working a shot like this, and you're right. It would have been like I think what Roland would have done, what he probably would have done, like the whole plane, and then the model having like this very flowy dress or some kind of props to kind of like, you know, uh,
Yeah,
but
very dramatic. I would have had some, nice skies and all that stuff, but
hey, look
I
at
was
that.
too. Rolando Sanchez, everybody.
I would have
in the
had the
house.
perfect skies.
All
Yeah.
right, guys, let's go
Well,
to the image 7 out of 10.
Imagen número 7.
we're almost on that.
Oh, wee! I was
Oh,
waiting for this
man.
image.
This one right
I
here.
was waiting for this one.
Eli,
Who shot this
I know
one?
you really like this image, so we'll have you take the
Who,
lead
who
on this
shot
one.
this one?
Okay, so I'm gonna take lead on
Eli,
this one.
who
So
shot this one?
I'm gonna start this one. I'll put the name of the photographer in a little bit.
Okay.
This was by Rob. And the first thing that I love is, gosh, I love the damn styling. The hat, love, love, love the hat. The pose is just so nice and just so graceful. And I feel like the lighting looks very natural. I can tell that it's off camera flash, but it almost looks like natural light. And I love the fact of using a foreground element to blur out. That's something that I want to get better at in my work to add more depth. So you have that foreground blur, you have the her in the middle, which is in focus, and then you have the background blur. So that adds that beautiful depth. And I think Rob did a heck of a job, at least in my opinion, with working with the environment. It doesn't feel like it's too distracting, at least in my opinion, because you have some pillows, you have the carpet, you have some plants back there. There is some type of painting in the back right that I kind of wish,
The
wouldn't
window
have been there,
art.
but it doesn't bother me. It really doesn't.
Looks like a window.
Or it's like a window,
Yeah.
yeah. And obviously, there's nothing he could have done about that. But for me, I think this is a very, very beautiful image, and this is something that I wish I could have taken or come away with. Rolando Sanchez.
Well, the only thing that I see with this is Rob over on the left side. I don't know if that's a pole or something, but
Oh, Rob's in
and
here.
I don't know if you were using grass or leaves or something to in the front of your lens, but it looks that pole looks a little bit off, but I can see that probably the leaves or what you were using in front made the lens a little bit
I think it's
distorted. But
camouflage is what it is.
other than
Let's
that, this is a
talk about it right
great shot. Great use of
now.
lighting.
Rob is in here, by the way.
Yeah, and like Eli said, that little back window. Uh, Maybe we could have taken it out or whatever. But other than that, it's a great shot. That's Katie. Oh, Rod's on here.
All right, Marco's gonna jump in next. Marco, what do you
Yeah,
think, man?
man, this is Rob. If you're in here, this is such a fantastic
is.
image. I just, I really love it. From the styling to the colors that you kind of worked with. And I'm kind of curious if, this is something that you and the model kind of collaborated with and talked about, and maybe you planned out the whole wardrobe, knowing the location that you were going to be shooting at. Because I just feel like this picture was meant to be, and because everything just comes together so well. Like I feel like you guys spent some time planning it out and trying to figure out what was going to work best for the area that you were going to be shooting in. I love the use of the hat, and it's very tricky working with a hat that I've learned.
Yes.
Because when you work with a hat, you have to be careful that it's not placed in a position where it's covering the whole face of the model or creating too much shadow. And I think maybe that might have been one of the reasons why, maybe you brought in a flash to kind of add that little extra touch of, lighting. And I was kind of looking at it says the 280 200s and the dual head with the pop-up. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. All right, very good. So like I said, it's, Rob, you did such a fantastic job. And honestly, this reminds me of a photo of a photographer. His name is, hopefully I don't say the last name wrong, Kyle Chong.
Kyle Chong. Yeah.
Kyle Chong.
Oh, yes, you're right. It does
So
look like him.
if you know Kyle Chong, you know that this is
Kyle Chong.
his style. Like, he has such an amazing balance between flash and ambient that it looks like natural light. And there's like a handful of photographers that are able to do that and do it so well. Another photographer who does it amazingly is Danny Batista. He's got such an eye for balancing the ambient with the flash, and he does it in a fantastic way. But I was kind of curious, Rob. And I think Roland had mentioned this, but looking at the pole that's to the left side of her, I don't know if that's like a pole, but it looks like you maybe did some clone stamping there. And maybe it just, or maybe, I don't know, it just looks a little bit off. I don't know if you had retouched that area of the photo. But I do see like you had that, you were using the plant in front of you like as a foreground element, with what Eli was talking about. But it looks like maybe you tried to clone stamp something on that side. I don't know. I could be 100% wrong, but it just kind of looks like that. But overall, the pose, it's fantastic. And here's the one thing that the last thing that I'll mention about the pose is that I love that you can see all the limbs, and I love that everything is bent, It's like one of the things that, when I'm working with a model that I try to, if she's sitting, I try my best to make sure that you can see the hands, that each limb is bent, and it just adds more form to the model's body. And it just kind of gives you a more interesting photo to work with. But I love the photo, man. It's fantastic. I wish I could have taken this photo.
So one of the things that I want to mention real quick, because Robert had said that he put this in another group and they critiqued it, and they said that the pillow was distracting in the background. What do you think, Roland? Do you think that pillow is distracting?
The only thing, when I first saw this photo, it took me straight to the face. But now that he points out the pillow in the back, I would have just taken out not the pillow itself, but the design in the middle, just or blurred it a little bit more in post. That's the only thing I would have done. So it'll take, because I know your eyes will shift over there to that side as well. But yeah, I can see why they would have said that. Just take the patterns off. It'll be better.
Robert had said that he took this. He did this on vacation.
Not bad.
And she came and picked up, and he just winged it. That's how good Robert is, guys.
Robert, if you guys put this together while you were on vacation, man, I envy you, because I wish I could get a shot like this while I was on vacation. It's amazing, man.
Yeah, I just wish a girl like that would come pick me up at the airport. I'd be like, yeah, we're gonna do a shoot. But
Okay,
no.
so he said about the distortion. This is what he said.
Yeah,
right
I
there.
saw that. So that makes a lot of sense. So it's from the leaf, and because of the lens that it created distortion. That makes sense. Okay, very good. Yeah. So Robert, excellent job, man. Thank you for submitting it and giving us a chance to critique
Yes, thank you, Robert. Appreciate it, man. Such a beautiful image, man. All right.
I wish
we're
I
gonna go to
could
image 8 out of 10. We got 3 more, boys.
Let's see.
I'm gonna take us off the screen so we can see the whole photo. Who wants to start off this one?
I'll take the lead on this one. So, man, this photo is see, these are the types of photos that really inspire me, for a variety of reasons. One being that, it's a narrative. Like it's a photo that was taken in a shoot that the photographer.
It's the same person again.
It's Robert.
Rob.
Of course. Robert, why do you
I
get
wanna
two
hang
images,
out with
man? What's
Rob.
going on? Kick this guy out of the... I'm just kidding, Robert.
Yeah.
So
us look
we
bad.
already know that Rob killed the last photo, and he submitted a second photo because he wanted to make sure that we understood that he was killing it. Robert, you are super talented, bro. I can't believe I've never seen your work before. I am gonna follow you on Instagram. I have never seen your work before, and I really, really love it. But okay. So looking at this photo, I can see that it's again, like I was talking about. There's a very important storytelling element in this. I like all the props that you incorporated. She's on the floor. It looks like her legs are, I guess, resting on like a sofa or kind of like a some type of ottoman or something like that. It's furniture. But I like the way like the magazines are laid out. They're all Maxim. It's kind of like, this girl, she's at home. She's kind of just hanging out, chilling. And she's jamming out.
That's the way I listen to music, by the way, guys.
This is how Eli is dressed when he's listening to music. He has that exact same outfit. So
Yeah.
Roland's like, all right,
STFU.
but I kid you not, this is how Eli listens to music. But like going back to the photo, it's I think this is such a great job of having all those elements, and you have all these props, like you have the record player, you have the headphones, you have the magazines, but it's not distracting, if that makes sense. Like I feel like they kind of enclose her, and I feel like you kind of use them, or maybe I'm just making this up, but I feel like you kind of use them to kind of frame her. And I think you did a very, or maybe you just threw the magazines and that's how they landed. And that's how good Rob is. Just like, it just landed perfectly. But it's, it's such a fantastic use of props. And it's just, you're really telling an image. I like, and also another photo that I like that she's not actually looking at the camera.
Mm-hmm.
She's just kind of looking at, maybe at the record player. And it kind of makes the viewer wonder, like, what is she doing? I mean, I know she's listening to music, but what is she thinking? Exactly. Why isn't she looking at the camera? Why doesn't she have contact with the person that's looking at her? So I feel like that just adds another element of mystery, which I feel like is important in photography. You want to keep the viewer guessing of, what the purpose behind the image was. And, the wardrobe is great. And like I said, I think just all those elements, come together. And I kind of like, the fact that, and this is like some of the things sometimes when I'm thinking about like the crops. So like the feet, they're kind of resting on a piece of furniture. And I know this issue always comes up, if it was shot this way, what was the creative choice behind, cropping it? I know there's that, I don't even think it's like a rule. It's just kind of like something that, you shouldn't crop at the knee or like at the joints. But honestly, this is fantastic.
It don't bother me at all.
It doesn't bother me at all. I think the crop is fantastic. It's just, like I said, it's overall, it's very well executed. The lighting is, super dope, super soft light. I love that you can see both hands. Both hands are doing something. So great job, man. I like it.
Where did you find the record player?
Yeah, Rob, if you're still watching, man, Robert, how did this shoot come about? That's what I want to know. Like, how did this shoot? Like, how did you plan this out?
He was on
vacation again. But what I will tell you, and I'll mention a couple of things that Marco didn't mention. I love the use of like each body part, like with the hands. Everything's bending. Everything's doing something. Even the feet, it's like bent, and you have this nice flow that goes throughout the image. But excellent job with the hair sitting down as well. Also, the lighting. I think he did another great job with balancing the light.
She was in a Maxim cover contest and was top 16. Damn, that's badass. Congratulations, Rob. That's awesome.
So Rob said that she was in a Maxim cover contest and she was a top 16 overall. If she made it to top 8. Wow, super cool, man.
Awesome, dude.
Nice.
So he said that she completely put it all together, these props, and snagged me to shoot. Man, Rob, you're getting lucky with everything, dude. Man. I'm going to go hang out with you, dude.
Where do you live, Rob?
Where do you live, Robert? We're going to go hang out with you.
We're taking the next flight out of here.
There's plenty of flights.
But overall, like I was saying, like just nice flow throughout the image. And Robert, you do such an excellent job balancing the light. It doesn't look like off-camera flash, but I guarantee you that it probably is. But it looks so natural. And you want to add anything to that, Roland Sanchez?
Hey, Rob, I'm a lucky guy, too. You need to check out my work. Sanchez_Roland.
I was.
Follow me on Instagram. Sanchez_Roland.
Follow me on Instagram. It's nice to be lucky once in a while. Hey, Eli,
Yes, sir.
this photo, you mentioned something about her feet. I don't see this is cropped in, right?
I didn't
Or
say
am I
anything
missing
about the
something?
feet. At least I don't think I
It's the
did.
legs. I think you were like
Yeah, you did.
talking about
Oh,
how
okay.
the legs
So
are
there's
like
Oh, the
close
legs.
to
I
her.
liked how the right leg
It's
is
One's back.
bent in to add that flow.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
And
That's what I
kinda
meant, sorry.
It just kind of like follows a path, like leading back into the image. It looks
Wow.
awesome.
Robert said he used 3 or 4 lights. He doesn't remember. Wow.
I would have used 8.
I would have done 10.
Light her up. It was like it's all blown
All right.
out. I'll fix it in Photoshop.
Next one.
You ready for the next image, boys?
Yes. Great job,
Yeah,
Rob.
let's
Thank
see.
you for submitting the image.
We got 2 more.
Let's see.
This is really
Who's this?
This
I mean, the
is
blue shot.
Raj. I'm going to add the name
Raj?
right now.
I don't know how to pronounce the last name, but we'll just say Raj. We'll call it Raj. Photo number 9.
And I know it's Raj for sure because one of my coworkers. So, Roland, I'm going to have you start this one, Rolando Sanchez.
Okay. First of all, good use of what it looks like. Maybe he used 2 lights because I see some rim light on her left arm on that jacket. I would, if you're using that rim light on that side, I would have placed it on over her right shoulder to kind of separate her more a little bit and kind of light up that right cheek just a tiny little bit. So I would have used low power. Other than that, the pose a little bit where I would, again, we're here talking about flattering flattering poses. So I would have moved her left hip back up a little bit. So that right hip is actually towards the camera. Hands, good use of hands. You're showing both hands. Again, with the lips, what I said earlier, have them breathe through the mouth. It looks a little bit more flattering instead of having the lips that are tightly closed. So just my opinion on that. Let's see. The balance of ambient to strobe, you're a little bit off on the ambient. I know I've done this a lot too. And when I shoot with Marco and Eli, Marco's always correcting me. Hey man, you need to, watch your shutter
A
speed.
little bit more ambience.
Little bit more ambient. So I guess slowing down the shutter speed just a little bit would have brought in a little bit more ambient. Okay, P2 media group. I guess no, just one light. I don't know if it was just one light or maybe 2 lights because I see that rim light on her jacket, unless it was a sun bouncing off that building.
I
One night,
think P2 Media, Roland, is Raj. That's what I'm assuming. Let me
Raj,
know, P2 Media. Are you Raj?
yeah, I think it was just that light. Oh yeah, it looks like that light was bouncing off that window towards the back. You see that? Where the
Yeah.
reflection is.
That's what I thought.
So,
When I first saw the image, it looked like a one light setup. We're looking at the catch lights here, and it's definitely a one light setup. And I'm thinking that maybe there was like a wall or maybe like a car that was reflecting and bouncing like back, and that's the light that you were thinking, Roland.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah,
a good
that's what I-
observation, though. Whatever it is adding like a kicker light in a sense to that jacket.
Something reflective.
Yeah.
Or maybe just like a dim light source next to her or something like that.
Yes. You want to add, Mr.
Yeah,
Marco?
so I really like the lighting. The lighting is so soft. I think you did a fantastic
Yeah.
job. But I do agree with Roland that the ambient's a little bit dark. I probably would have done either one of 2 things. Either lower your shutter speed to add a little bit more ambience, or if you were shooting in different conditions, you could have maybe played with your aperture. If you were shooting like maybe a little bit with a smaller aperture, versus shooting wider. But at the end of the day, here are the things that I really do like about the image. Like I said, I think you did a fantastic job with the lighting. It's really, really soft. Keeping in mind that you were using a one light setup, and it looks like you had it fairly close to her. Seeing where the light falls off, going like from her face all the way down to her dress. And then, of course, the only thing that I would comment on, and this is kind of like maybe it'd be a personal preference thing. I see what you were kind of going for with the hand, but I feel like with the pose, she was more of like pulling her face. So I feel like she's actually stretching it a little bit, very, it's a subtle, thing, and I feel like it's maybe making her face look a little bit wider than what it is. Or I could be wrong. I just feel like, where she has her thumb, I feel like it's kind of maybe pressed against
Blocking
it.
the face a lot.
Yeah, it's kind of like pushing against it rather than just kind of resting there. So what I would have done is maybe try to make some adjustments to the hands, or it looks like she's got wearing that jacket. Maybe you could have maybe tried something with both hands with the jacket. I know that or maybe even having trying different like I said, different poses, keeping in mind the location that you were working at. But I think overall the colors went very well. The blue with the kind of like that orange red in the background. I think those two colors are work very well together. Kind of got some yellow in there too.
No, I'm reading what Robert said.
Oh yeah. So like I said, I think the image looks good. Now the last thing that I'm gonna say is I feel like the skin tones or the color of the skin. You've got like two kind of variations. Like on the face, it's very yellow. You've got like more yellowish, reddish, and then the hand, it's brighter. It looks more on the cooler side. There's more magenta in it. So I would have tried maybe to color correct the skin tone, whether using kind of like a hue saturation layer to kind of try to balance that out. Maybe even a selective color balance. Maybe use layer masks, kind of mask it in, or try to get something where you have a closer connection or parallel in the tones in the skin. And then other than that, the only other thing that I probably would have done, and this is a minor thing, the hand, the same thing with the hand. I think it's a little bit too bright. Maybe kind of dial it back just a little bit. Maybe make it darker using like a curves adjustment layer or an exposure adjustment layer, and just kind of masking it in. And again, that's minor, but I feel like when I looked at the image, my eyes kind of went straight to the hand.
Mm-hmm.
So
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So you guys were saying that you guys think that the ambient is too dark in the background. You're referring to like where the
On
trees
this
at the
side,
sidewalk
on the
tree
tree
side.
Yeah.
Okay.
Trees
Well,
and, yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna
Blending in
say.
with a-
So I think, in my opinion, I'm gonna disagree with you guys a little bit in the sense of you can tell that the sun was shooting straight into the building. It was going to be almost, it was going to be very difficult to balance
Blown out.
both of them. So he was going to have to pick and choose here. Now, maybe he could have brought it up with like, kind of like they asked the question at the beginning where how can I bring up ambient? Maybe he could have used an adjustment brush or like a radial or a gradient to bring that up a little bit. To me, it doesn't bother me. I think the reason why it's making it a little bit difficult is because she has the black jacket with the black background, and so that doesn't give it the separation.
kind of meshes.
Exactly. So that's why I think that maybe is a little bit of an issue, and that's where I'll agree with you guys on that
Second
part.
light would've-
Well, a second light would have been difficult.
Oh, because
Right,
of the
because of-
sun, because of the direction the sun.
Well, not necessarily the sun, but because of the black jacket, or would it? Do you think it would have popped a little bit still, right?
Maybe a
It
little.
It would have popped.
Yeah. It might have not been the perfect solution, but again, understanding the wardrobe that you were working with. I know sometimes working with black it's hard. It is.
Yes. And Raj says, "Thank you guys so much. Appreciate the feedback. You're welcome, dude. Keep in mind, we're not experts. As we're looking at this image, I make a lot of mistakes,
the
whether
time.
it's
Yeah, we're-
through the picture
a
or
bunch of
post processing.
the
We
time.
do this for fun. So those of you that are watching, please understand that we are not saying that we know everything and that we're
It's just an
amazing
opinion,
all the
guys.
time. It takes a lot of guts for you guys to send images out to people and have them critique them live. So I commend you guys for sending us the images, and we're having a lot of fun. Going back to this image, I think he did a great job with the exposure. I like what he did with the exposure on the face. Soft lighting looks great. Good choice of lens as well. So other than that, I mean, good image.
Good image.
Good overall image.
good.
Raj, I'm curious, man. What was this image for? Was this TFP? Was this a friend? Was this your wife? Was this a model? Was this a client? Just out of curiosity, man. I would love to know what this photo was for,
A
man.
little bit more story behind the image.
Yeah. So we're on to our last photo. You ready, boys?
Yeah.
Let's do it. Nice.
Okay. Roland, you said nice. I'm going to have you start off, Rolando Sanchez.
I've always wanted to learn how to shoot through the windows. I don't know if it's a window or an overlay, but looks good. Let's see. I don't know. I don't have a lot of experience with these type of photos. I know Eli, you do because I've seen you do these type of shoots before.
You know,
Or you
I've
shooting
done
through
it a
car.
couple of times, but I don't do it a lot. And I'm kind of
It's
like
not
you,
natural.
Rolando Sanchez. I want to get better at them as well, man. And
Yeah.
I think the thing that stands out to me is, again, beautiful expression. Roland, you've been saying this all day, is separate the lips a little bit, breathe through your mouth.
Perfect example,
There
right?
you go.
And right there, this is the perfect example. Is that correct, Rolando Sanchez?
Perfect example of open or breathing through the mouth, so we can see an expression, relaxed lips, and you can see that the lines on her smile lines aren't there. So this is just a great expression to begin with. I would have had her drop the shoulder just a little bit so I can see her chin.
Yes.
Just so you can see, the separation there, because it's just,
Yes, that's a great
you
point,
know,
Roland.
big spot, a lot of flesh right there. But other than that, the pose, the way she looked at the camera, breathe through your mouth, the shoulder exposed like that, sexy, pretty, and classy. That's what
Yes.
I like.
I was also going to mention that he did a hell of a job with the post
Is it
processing.
R or follow? What does it say?
Super clean, man.
Very clean
Super
image. Very, very clean
Hey,
image. I
like,
love the catch lights in the eyes. We're looking at
who
the
shot?
photo through an iPad right now. I wish you guys could see the detail on screen, but it is just gorgeous. And this photographer, he also sent an image last time when we did our last live
Oh,
critique.
he did the Boca one, right?
The Boca
Like
one
the
where
coffee
she's sitting
or-
like in the coffee shop.
That's
Yes,
right.
this is that photographer. So
Very
what do
good.
you think, Marco? This honestly, when I saw this image, I thought of Marco. I felt like this is something Marco would take.
This is definitely like right up my alley. Going back to, I'm not very good at close-ups. So I don't know if I would have been able to get something like this had I tried it. I mean, if I put the effort in, yeah, I'm probably sure I would have walked away with something that I was happy with. But when you're working with close-ups like this, and especially shooting through a window, I don't know if this was like a home or if you all were at a specific location. But I've always wanted to try doing this, like a close-up, having, shooting through glass, whether it's a car window or at an actual place, at a location. But you did a fantastic job of ensuring that you weren't going to have so much glare from the window and that you were actually going to be able to see her. I would actually be kind of curious to see the raw image on this, just
Man,
out of curiosity.
I would love to edit this image. By the way,
Are you watching? Send us the image.
send us the raw.
Send us the raw file. Like I said,
Wow.
it's one of those really, really cool shots that I'd love to see what the raw image looks like, just to have a base, and so I can try to duplicate. But like I said, what I really, really like about the image is the challenge. And I know this is a challenging image to work with because of the conditions that you were working in. But at the same time, and I would be kind of curious if this was actually added in post or if this was part of the image. But I see color, so I'm seeing blues, towards her back. I'm seeing greens, yellow, and red to the left side of the frame, which would be the right side of her face, and I'm seeing some purple hues at the top. So I am kind of curious if those were colors that were naturally present in the image, or if that is something that you added to kind of heighten the color variability in the image, which it could have been one or both, or maybe you had those images and those colors were already present and you just enhanced them in Photoshop. Either way, I think they look natural. So whether you added them in post or not, I think it just adds a little subtle touch of color. And I know that this is definitely an image that our friends, Ben and Niall would definitely like, because, it's a close-up, there's some color in there, and I can definitely see them creating something like this as well, and they're very good at what they do. But, at the end of the day, it's a clean image. Post-processing is very, very good. I love the expression. I love the tones. I do think, I kind of agree what Roland had said a little bit earlier, maybe raise her chin just a little bit or lower the shoulder just a little bit, not by much, just by a very minimal amount, just so you can see maybe a little bit more of the neck, a little bit more of the chin. So it doesn't look like she just kind of connected, from the, the chin to the shoulder. But I understand, why it turned out like this, because she's actually looking over her shoulder versus, looking directly at the camera. But, the other thing that I really like is that you can see the hand.
Oh, yes.
So you can see the hand. It's just not her face. And I'm not saying that the image would have been any less good had you not been able to see the hand. But I do like to have that, that connection between, the body and the hands and the limbs and stuff like that. So, but overall, Paulo, I think you did a fantastic job. I really love it.
All right, guys. Well, that pretty much, let me put there for Roland Sanchez. There it is. If you want to follow, there is Sanchez_Roland. And if you want to follow Mr. Marco Jilpas. And then, of course, me, Eli_Infante_. That's us on Instagram.
On the gram.
We are going to be having more guests. Hopefully, we can get Naya and Ben on here sometimes, or Hannah. Hannah or Naya. But we want to have more people on here. Rolando Sanchez was nice enough to make time in his busy schedule.
Super busy.
His super busy schedule.
Right.
But hopefully you had fun, Roland. I had fun, dude. This was cool.
Papa, you did a good job.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and for everybody that submitted the photo, I just want to again thank you for doing that. It's like Eli said, it's a super brave thing to do, to put yourself out there, to be subject to critique, or to at least feedback how you can improve your photography. But thank you so much. We wouldn't be able to do these type of lives if you didn't submit the photos. We probably would have come up with something else to do, being the payasos that we are.
There we go.
Just make sure you can see my Instagram and stuff like that.
Yeah, and
thank you everybody who submitted a photo. And
cost me $50, man. I have to put it up.
And then thank you to everybody who tuned into the live and asked questions, comments, and stuff like that. So really fun. I hope you guys had as much fun as we did.
Yes, I had fun. All right, guys. Well, we're going to end it. Rolando Sanchez, I'll see you, man. Peace out, guys. Let's go here.